has to write a play about how this plays out behind the door in the cabinet room or wherever, in the Prime Minister's office. It goes like this. I think I want you to go. You're too heavy. You are no longer my brother. And you get a response. As soon as you're gone, I will follow. So, on top of the incompetence, where they destroy the confidence that they met in the country on the economic sphere, talking about greed and Ponzi scheme and all that, and trying to give you exuberant legal advice as to how legally right they are. You have the Prime Minister engaging in uncomfortable cover-up of what might be serious issues which ought to be known to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And while all this is going on, this government continues to distinguish itself as the most corrupt government this country has ever seen. And I want to spend a few minutes before I close directing you to a particular local government issue so that you could understand what the corruption is, how it is, and what it's costing you. All of you here create garbage. And every so often, the garbage truck comes around because in your neighborhood, there's a schedule for picking up garbage. Cleansing and transport, as we call it, is a multi-billion-dollar business over time. Every year, we spend hundreds of millions of dollars just making sure your garbage is picked up. Look at what is happening with respect to the corruption in garbage collection. And this is only the thin end of the wedge, you know. This is the small-time corruption that's taking place under the UNC. The first thing they do is to ensure that they have the right people in place. And once the right people are in place, the wrong things can flow. I have here in my possession the documentation with respect to one of the 14 corporations in Trinidad with respect to local government. And I talk to you here in Arima because what I'm going to describe to you is on its way to Arima. It's reached as far as Tunapuna Piaku. In Tunapuna Piaku, the bidding process for contractors took place a few months ago, where every 3 years the contractors have to bid. And the contractor with the best bid and who can do the job properly and so on is given the contract. Cast your mind back. A few months ago, when the bids were invited and they were opened, and bear in mind what I'm telling you, home and present here, the bids were opened. So everybody knew what everybody else bid. For some strange reason, the Minister of Local Government then made a statement that the bidding process was illegal and that the process had to be done over, and they attempted to do over the bidding process. So of course, everybody knew what everybody else bid. But in that scenario, one special contractor had come in consistently high, either the highest or the second highest. Sometimes there are 15 contractors bidding, sometimes 12, sometimes 6. But this special contractor in that last bid round was always either the highest or almost the highest. And the reaction from the government minister is that we have to do over this bidding process. We in the P.N.M saw that, we listened to that, and we watched that. Because we knew what the minister was trying to do. He was trying to make sure that the process didn't go to conclusion because the favored contractor was not in line to get a single air cleansing area. So to protect the contractor, you want to cancel the process. Guess what? The process was never cancelled. And these are the numbers. Open your ears, Trinidad and Tobago. This is what Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Prakash Ramadan, Winston Dukaran, and Suraj Rambachan presiding over. And I'm using the example here of Tunapuna Piako, which is one of the largest corporations in the heart of the country. In 2010, when the contract ended, this favored contractor was cleansing certain streets. Now bear in mind, the streets have not grown in length, the population has not grown in size, it's the same streets, it's the same route, it's the same number of times to cleanse and so on. And you're bidding for that. And when you bid, this contractor was bidding or doing the job when the retendering process started. This contractor was bidding for Area 1, bidding $4,571 per day. In the new bidding arrangement where I just told you he was either the highest bidder or the second highest, he is now bidding $7,200 a day. That made him either the highest bidder or the second highest. And in some instances, there are 6 or 8 contractors below him. In fact, if you throw out the 2 lowest and the 2 highest, and you choose the lowest of the median group, he's still $2,000 a day higher than that. And guess what? He was able to pick all the prized areas, all the easy areas, and got them at the price of $7,285 against people who bid $3,000 less per day. And when you go through the whole list in Tunapuna, you will see wherever other contractors bar one, because there are 2 of them in the game, there are 2 contractors in the game, and they play off one against the other to get his team to work. All the other contractors, whenever they win, their average price is $3,000 per day. But wherever this particular contractor wins, his average price is $7,000 a day. It might sound small money to you, but bear in mind, I am talking about per day. And how many days in the week? How many weeks in the year? And of course, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. Let me go through to you the summary of the analysis that we have done in Tunapuna Piako. Tunapuna Piako, in the last go-around for 2010, was paying $102 million for cleansing and transport. As a result of what I've just described to you, that arrangement where the highest bidder gets the contract, Tunapuna Piako will now be paying $139 million for the identical work. So by that little gizmo there, somebody has added to your cost an extra $39 million. And that's only in Tunapuna Piako, where they have already made the awards. The similar situation exists in Arima to be made. And this same contractor is a bidder in the 14 corporations. Let me explain to you what the analysis says to us. It says that cleansing in Tunapuna Piako, the cost of cleaning the streets on the same routes has increased by 36%. And the beneficiary of that is this favored contractor. Of the 24 areas, this particular contractor was allowed to pick out, while being the highest or second highest bidder, to pick out the 9 best areas. No hill, no gully, no steep road, no place hard to turn around. The nice, flat, clean areas. Got 9. And he then ends up with 37.5% of the total budget in Tunapuna Piako. So, this favored contractor bid, and I'm talking about his actual bid, whenever he bids, his bid is between 25% and 50% higher than the lowest bidder. But he always gets the contract that he wants.
Yeah.
And of course, put differently, even while he's bidding $17 million more in Tunapuna Piako and being the highest bidder, or among the highest bidder, he gets the job.
Yes. Listening that tonight.
Remember I tell you, same roots, nothing changed. And of course you have to ask yourself, who is this favored contractor? Who is this special contractor who's so lucky? This is the same contractor where when the election results were coming in 2010, he was a cleansing contractor, lower in the ranks. But as soon as it became clear that the P.N.M had lost and a new prime minister was picked up, this contractor could have gone and found the prime minister, pick up the person and carry the person in his house. And the next thing you know, we can't find the prime minister in St. Anne's. She's living in Paget. It took the P.N.M to prevent that from continuing after months of that. And we found that there was something just not right with that. Something didn't sit right with that. We took the matter to the Integrity Commission, who ruled, and we couldn't argue that nothing wrong with that. You could sleep anywhere with whoever you want for as long as you want. That was the Integrity Commission position. And while we were trying to digest that, we heard about bid rigging in NP. The same contractor was being used to push out an established contractor who had put in a bid. He was the incumbent contractor. His bid was better than this favored contractor. But bid riggers at NP, a $40 million contract, had already taken a decision at the level of the board to push out this company and to put in the Gopal company. You understand? And Carolyn C. Prasad Bechan, minister then, decided under public pressure to investigate that matter. What happened then? The Attorney General came in, cancelled that investigation, moved the investigators, pretended to investigate himself, and reported to us all that wasn't true except one truthful point, that he had determined that there was bid rigging at NP, but never told us who was rigging the bids and who the beneficiaries were. And I can tell you tonight, since then, the contractor who they were pushing out has been allowed to remain on a month-to-month basis. Imagine you're doing business for years with NP, and all of a sudden a new government comes into office, and the Attorney General leads the charge, and you're there month to month. So you go to the bank in a multi-million-dollar business, month to month. That is government Kamla Prasad Bisesa style. So we had bid rigging at NP, and I don't have the time to go into the details here of the bid rigging at local government, except to say that all the information point to the fact that this was organized from the beginning by the placement of certain particular persons in there. And of course, let me give you an example of what is involved, because I started off telling you about $5,000 a day and $7,000 a day and so on, and you're only grasping this thing in the concept of a few $1,000s. Let me tell you what it is. If it is that $17,000 or approximately $17,000 is replicated around all the corporations in Trinidad, you multiply that by 14, it comes to $248 million for the year. And if you multiply that over the 3-year period of the contract, it comes to something humongous. Over the 36, You see, this is the kind of money that is going astray in Trinidad and Tobago. That is why they could have come to Tobago in a little Tobago House of Assembly election and spend tens of millions of dollars. And this is why when they were talking about somebody buying Val Park Plaza, and they went to the conglomerates in Trinidad to offer them the plaza, among the conglomerates who were being offered were the new conglomerates that grew in 2.5 years under the stewardship of Kamla Prasad Bisesa. That's what we're facing. That's what's going on. And that is why, with this kind of leakage of government money, the money is being spent, but you're seeing no movement in the economy. Because it's being leaked out in this way. And you don't get the benefit of the laws and the procurement process, which should give you better prices through competition. Because one of the things they're doing in local government under this board of SWIMCOL, because the contracts are being handled by SWIMCOL, and this whole scam is being executed by the board of SWIMCOL on behalf of the corporations. So once the chairman on the board and the tenders committee in SWIMCOL agree to go this way, game on.
Yes, sir.
Understand?
Fucking fun.
And while they're doing that, the millions are flowing to particular locations directed by elements of the government. And then it has the effect of destroying the business of the competitors. Not only that they don't get the job that they could have won the bid for, but by these people getting the jobs at those inflated prices, they could afford to pay their staff, that is the winning people who got the bid at the highest price. They can now afford to pay their staff much higher wages and so on. If the other people want to stay in the game, they too must now have to pay the inflated price to their workers or get out the business. It's like a cancer, it grows only to the benefit of the cancerous cell. And that cost is passed on to you, the taxpayers. We have no problem with workers getting increases in pay. But I'm just demonstrating to you the artificial pressure that corruption puts on it. And then if the corporation is not given an increased allocation by the Minister of Finance to fund the corrupt increase, then what happens to you on your street is that the corporation will reduce the number of days that the trucks pass to pick up your garbage. Because whereas before, you might have been getting 5 days at X dollars can now only give you 3 days. So as you pile up in the garbage, your money is being transported away in garbage bags and truckloads of garbage bags to the pockets of persons who are supported and identified by persons in the government. That is corruption at work in Trinidad and Tobago. And I can tell you, that is only a little sliver of what is happening. That is small time. That is garbage collection. That is the garbage boys. And if garbage big so, you could imagine what's happening elsewhere. Because rest assured, the same thing is happening elsewhere. So tonight, I have 2 assignments for the Prime Minister. 1, tell the country definitively that you have determined that there is no reason for us to be concerned about any link, whatever it might be, between the Minister of National Security and his business partner and progeny in America. Tell us that you have done the work and you found that there's no cause for concern in the public. We will not accept from you that you don't know and you don't care. And secondly, I want the Prime Minister to tell the country that anything that I said here tonight about SWIMCOL's bid rigging in local government is not true. Tell the country that truthfully, and you produce your documents. And tell the country who is the board of SWIMCOL, who appointed the chairman, who selected the chairman, who is chairing the tenders committee at Swimcol, and explain to us what was the basis for the increase of 36% for garbage contractors when you have 15 people offering to do the job that this contractor is doing at the increased prices. Tell us all of that. And while you're busy doing that, I'll be busy sending this to the Integrity Commission. So ladies and gentlemen, I told you a lot about the UNC and the Prime Minister. I want to tell you here in Arima tonight that I have a lot to say about the COP. Because I come from Tobago, as you know. And in Tobago, we have a statement for everything. And this one, listen to it very carefully. The upholder is worse than the thief. The COP is the upholder of the UNC's wrongdoing. And that is why, as they're going to pass soldier police law in the parliament, Prakash Ramadan, who is your head here in Arima, because you gave them 7 seats here in Arima, 6, you get them 6. 6-1. He's head of the party. They're going to conduct soldiers into police. He is head of the Legislative Review Committee in the cabinet. The man is so without certain organs that that matter doesn't come to him. It doesn't come to him at the cabinet. Something comes from somebody else that creates this problem. He agrees to go along with it, brings it to the parliament, then goes and tells some young person in the media, some young innocent person who wouldn't ask him the correct question. He has a problem with it, and he's not sure that it's okay. But he's going to go ahead and vote for it. And the little young lady wasn't experienced enough to ask him, if you have a problem with it, why didn't you address that problem at the Legislative Review Committee in Parliament, in Cabinet, where you are the chairman? Who are you trying to fool? That you want it, but you don't really want it. And as it goes to the Parliament, votes for it. But he voted against the motion of no confidence. He had every confidence in the Prime Minister. And today his biggest issue is that he wants an apology from Jack Warner, because Jack Warner called Dilima name. I'm sure Volan Dilima can handle himself and his stories. What is an apology from Jack Warner Wood? What is an apology from Jack Warner Wood? That is the sum total of the value of the COP. Of all that going on in the country, detrimental to you, the people, costing you millions in corruption, threatening your peace and good order and your rights under the Constitution. The only thing that interests Prakash Ramadan is an apology from Jack Warner. So tonight, I want to say to the people of Arima, hold on, the P.N.M is coming. Coming to take it back with a vengeance. We have served in the opposition for a term here. The term is coming to an end in July. They could run, but they can't hide. I ask you, the people of Arima, to identify your brightest sons and daughters and advance them to the P.N.M screening process. We will give you candidates of quality. And whenever the bell rings, loudly or softly, the P.N.M will confidently stride into the royal borough and reclaim it for your own and good governance. But in the meantime, remember, a lot has changed in the last few days. But in many cases, until the real change comes, the more it changes, the more it remains the same. Thank you and good night.